to be here. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the speaker session about acing your early career in product management. We have a different variety of students here. Most of them have graduated. Some of them are still being interns right now. But most of them have a strong inclination to build a career in product management. And they might have read some of the content that you have sent across recently. So folks, a quick thing on the house rules. If you can turn on your video, please do. We'd love to see you. And we'd love to have it more interactive and more Q&A over there than last. But the overall agenda looks like this. First, we'll have both the speakers introduce themselves and then talk about the overall theme of the session. And then once that is done, after 50 to 60 minutes, we will have a Q&A session during which you can unmute yourself and ask any question to either of these speakers. Up until then, we'll go on a mute-only mode. But at any point of time, when the speakers kind of ask any interaction, please feel free to unmute yourself. You're free to do that right now. You have the option to do that too. Right. Someone's unmuting right away. That's good. So let me give you a quick intro. We have Sandeep, Sada, and Devash Desai right here in our speaker session. Sandeep is right now a principal lead program manager at Microsoft. He is currently leading product development in the gaming kind of domain with Microsoft Cloud. He's also worked in Microsoft Azure products as well. Especially, he's also a PGPX alumni of IIMA, the batch of 2015, and he writes extensively about product management. If you have not checked him out yet, I'll share the Twitter handle and his Medium handle right now. Please do. Or else you can also go back to the event invite and see his Medium blogs as well. Thank you, Sandeep. Thank you so much for coming here. We can't hear you very well.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
Got it.
All right. Next up we have Devash. Devash is right now a staff PM at Freshworks. He has an extensive experience in different domains in product management. He's been a 0 to 1 PM, and he was a PM for GeoMoney during demonetization. How could experience now get better than that, right? And he's an alumni from ISB, batch of 2015. And Devash, we're so happy to have you here. Thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you for your kind words, Arvind.
Wonderful. Let me just then start the session right away and hand over the stage to Sandeep for the introduction, and then to Devash for his demonstration.
Alrighty, thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen, and the host has disabled participant screen sharing. Can you please enable that so that I can share my screen as I talk about it?
Sure, done.
So while my screen sharing is getting enabled, I just wanted to say a big hi to all of you. I see that we have a lot of participants, and I hope that I'm able to do justice to your time for the next half an hour. The agenda of my talk, okay, I'm able to share my screen. Thank you so much. All right. Please let me know once you're able to see it. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, right now, yes.
Okay, all right. So the agenda of my talk today is things that I learned as a product manager, and I'm focusing on only 7 things that I learned, okay? And interestingly, I wrote this presentation a long time back. Like this was in my year 1 of my product. And I continue to not making any changes to this so that you can relate to it in your early career. Of course, as you grow, there'll be more and more changes. I'm going to skip my introduction because it's already been done. But yeah, I'm a speaker, blogger, runner. I'm a father of 2 kids, and I love sharing some of this knowledge, especially when there are folks who are willing to listen. So when I started my career in product management, right, I had no idea what is product management all about. And quite interestingly, when I joined Microsoft, a year before that, Satya joined Microsoft as a CEO. Of course, he was with Microsoft for a long time, but he became the CEO a year back. And he wrote a book called Hit Refresh. I really read that book to understand what is product management all about. He talks about 4 things. He said, as a product manager, you basically deal with 4 things: customer, product, partner, and team. And today I'm going to be talking about those 7 learnings in all these 4 areas that as a product manager you will be dealing with. All right. So let's start off with customer. All of us, literally all of us would have heard this quote, which I don't even know whether Henry Ford ever said. And the quote goes like this: if I had asked what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. I strongly believe this quote is not true, because if he had asked from people what they wanted, they wouldn't have said faster horses, because people knew faster horses weren't possible. Maybe they would have asked for fertilizers. Maybe they would have asked for better hay for horses, because they felt that's possible, right? But there's a very important thing here. Customers often look at things that are possible. They do not think of things that are impossible. Another very famous product manager of our times, Steve Jobs, he said people don't know what they want until you show it to them. Now, basically, what am I trying to tell you? I'm starting off with customers, and my 2 favorite quotes that I'm quoting are something which I think, hey, don't listen to your customers. Is that the inference that we should listen to what our customers are saying? Not really. What they were trying to tell at their time was be obsessed with your customers, which goes beyond just listening to your customers. When you become product managers, when you are doing internship, you will hear from your mentors, from your customers, what they want. Okay. And this is where my first learning comes. There is an iceberg of wants and needs. Okay. Try and understand this iceberg. I'll give you a small distinction. Okay. Want is almost always stated. I'm wondering, how do I hide this? Hide video pan. Okay, great. Wants are almost always stated. Needs are almost always unstated. I'll give you an example. When I was in my heyday and when I was like 28 years old, I went to my parents and I said, you know what? I want a treadmill. Okay. You know why I wanted a treadmill? Now it's simple, right? I want a treadmill. What my parents would have done is they would have bought a treadmill for me. But what was the need? The need was I wanted to impress my fiance at that time by losing weight. Now, do you think I'll go to my parents and tell, you know what, I want to impress my then fiance, my now wife? I won't say that, right? That's a need. That's a understated need. I wanted to impress her. But what would I say? I'll say what I want. What did Henry Ford's customers say? They said faster horses. What was their need? Their need was to travel faster. What did Steve Jobs' customers say to him? They never said, I want an iPhone. They wouldn't have said it. They would have talked about, can you improve my productivity? They wouldn't have said it. That was the inherent need. Maybe they would have said something like, hey, can you make something similar to a Nokia communicator device, right? When you are talking to your customers, try and understand whether the customers are stating their wants or their needs. I'm going to give you a formula to understand the difference between wants and needs. Stay with me for the next 5 slides. When you are listening to your customers' wants, try to dig deep into the needs. Very important. Sorry. Is there a question?
Sorry about it. We have muted them right now.
Okay. So when I'm talking about wants, right? Where do you get wants? You get wants from blogs, social media, ratings and reviews, Q&A, interviews. You talk to a customer, they will tell you what they want, right? That's a want. It's stated. It's something that you articulate from your own mouth. A customer will do that. A need is something that is hidden. How do you get to understand the need? By observing, by internalizing what the customer may or may not want, by hypothesizing, by using data and telemetry. So again, when you become product managers, when you do your internships, try and understand whether you are hearing the wants or the needs. You've already seen the difference between products that ship wants versus products that ship needs. See the 2 examples that I took. Let's go further. When you ship wants, you build table stakes. What are table stakes? Table stakes means, just imagine, I wanted a treadmill and I got a treadmill. What will be my level of happiness? Maybe 5 out of 10. Now imagine, my parents just understood my need that maybe he wants to impress his fiance without me having to state it, and they get me a treadmill with maybe an instructor who can help me lose my weight. Now they have understood my need. Does it become a table stake? Will my happiness level still be 5? No, it will be shooting off 10, right? Because they understood my unstated need. When you ship unstated needs, you don't build table stakes. You build differentiators. You build delighters. So you will often hear this, are you shipping the cake or are you shipping the icing on the cake? Both are important. But when you ship icing on the cake, people love you. You don't make customers if you are shipping that icing. If you're addressing wants, just think what is happening, right? I said I want something and you give it to me. Then I am your loyal user, customer, visitor, etc., whatever, right? But I never stated what I wanted and you gave it to me. I am your fan. You bought me for your life, right? I would say the features that this product manager ships, even if they are buggy, I swear by him. You make evangelists. You make people who go on Twitter and tweet about how great a product yours is, even if it is buggy. Why? Because you are operating on the needs and not on wants. This is where my first learning comes. Great PMs identify and address unstated needs to make fans. You don't deal in the realms of users and customers and personas. You deal in the realms of fans. People will come and say, oh, I want to meet you because you shipped a product that meets my unstated need. They'll become your fans. That's first. Let's move on to the second. I've talked customer. Let me move to product. So now you have understood who your customer is, what their needs are, what their wants. How do you delve into the product? When you delve into the product, you have to understand what kind of a person you are. Are you a how kind of a person or a why kind of a person? And I'll tell you what I mean by that, right? Let's say I tell you, hey, build an alarm clock. You know your customer, you start talking to your customer, and you are so excited to build an alarm clock. By the way, I asked this question to somebody in one of the IIMs, and she made one of the most amazing alarm clocks possible with such rich features on a smartphone. And it was brilliant, absolutely creative. And she went on for 20 minutes. And then I said, hey, you know what? I forgot to tell you that I want you to build an alarm clock for my labor workforce to ensure that they come to work on time. And guess what? They don't have smartphones. I was talking about a literal alarm clock that you push on the top. Are you a how kind of a person? Are you trying to figure out how to build an alarm clock? Or are you trying to figure out why to build an alarm clock? If you are a why kind of a person, you would have asked that question to me on the very first second. Why do I even need an alarm clock? You getting it? So when you are building your products, operate on the why side. How is easy? There are 10,000 people in your organization who can figure out how to build a product. You are the only person in your team who should be able to articulate why you need the product that you're building. If you are not convinced why you are building the product, let alone that product will be failing. I can guarantee you that. It'll be a stroke of luck if the product becomes successful. You need to be in the DNA of the why of the product, in the blood, okay? And that problem statement should be flowing in your blood. That's very important. Then only you will be able to figure out whether the product is something that is meaningful for your customer, for you. Is it giving the customer value, the business value, the whole 9 yards? This comes to my second learning, and that is fall in love with the problem, not the solution. This happens so often, and I'm so glad all of you are interns, which means you've qualified for your interviews. But I see this problem happen so often in product management interviews where I ask a problem and somebody else gives me a solution. They love to marinate and swim in the solution because solutions are easy, right? You come up with a solution and you can get creative. And it's very easy because solution is where your creative juices flow. Problems are boring. But as a product manager, you need to ace that boring problem statement because, as I said, if you find the problem right, there will be 10,000 people to create 10,000 different solutions for you. Then you have identified the problem right. No matter who you are, you could be a CVP, a principal, a senior, a junior, an intern. You need to fall in love with the problem. You need to be falling in love with the why of the problem. So I have addressed two. I'm going to come to third. And this is where, imagine, you are now in a state where you've understood the problem, you have understood a solution. Now, what do you do next? Now, imagine you have something in your hand, you exactly know what the problem is going to be, and you almost have a solution in your mind. What do you do next? We're going to learn from one of the best fictional product managers, and that is Iron Man. Now, in Iron Man, for those who are Marvel fans, great, they know Iron Man. For those who are not Marvel fans, if somebody does not know Iron Man, please shout out loud. I'll give you 3 seconds. Okay, time over. I'm assuming all of you know Iron Man, and I'm going to talk about some things that you may have seen Iron Man do in the past. Number one, if you see Iron Man's first movie, 2008, and look at his suit only from the perspective of him being able to wear the suit, right? So look at the three things at the bottom. The time to wear the suit was very high. The location was constrained. He could only wear the suit in the cave. And it was not repeatable. He could wear the suit only once. It took him 60 seconds to suit up. In the process, he killed a doctor, right? This was a single flight suit that he did in the first time. Just look at his suits from one movie to another on these three parameters: the time that he took to wear the suit, the location in which he was wearing it, and whether he was able to make that process repeatable or not. And I'll come back to what your learning is going to be from here. In the same movie, in 2008, Iron Man 1, when he figures out, when he's saved, he goes back to the garage and tries to wear the suit. You see, time was high, location was constrained, even in his Iron Man first Mark 1 suit. The only problem he solved in the same movie half an hour later was he only solved the problem of repeatability. He only was able to make sure that his suit is repeatable. I actually saw the movie 3 times to figure out how much time he took. He took 60 seconds here. He took nearly 48 seconds here to wear the suit. So he did not even reduce the time. Time was still high. Come further up in the year 2010, when the next Iron Man movie came, this is where Iron Man wears the suit from a suitcase. If you see, he has already made the process of wearing the suit repeatable, right? The only problem he solved was the location constraint. Earlier, he was only able to wear the suit from his cave or then from his garage, and then he was able to wear it even in the open space, right? He could carry a briefcase and wear it. And this is a beautiful story. If you see the way Marvel built this suit, you will really realize how good a product that is. If you go further up in the year 2013, and this is the movie where his Malibu, mansion was completely demolished by some of the missiles. And he does a gesture control to make sure that Miss Potts is able to wear the suit. Now, if you see, now he's operating. Now, he's already made it repeatable. He reduces the location constraint even further. He does not need to carry a briefcase to wear a suit. It's a gesture controlled suit. And the time is reduced further. One very amazing thing that he does is he does not need to wear the suit in completion. He introduced a totally new feature called modular suit, where he's able to wear the suit in modules. He does not need to wear the suit completely to be ready, which, by the way, saves Miss Potts in that movie. Come 2018, Infinity Wars. It's repeatable. Time is reduced extremely. And look at the location constraint. He just taps his shirt and his jacket and his arc reactor, and he's able to wear the suit. The location constraint is completely minimized. Is this it? If Iron Man was alive, is this it? I would say this has still scope of improvement, right? Imagine the suit, him wearing the suit slowly over his face, and by that time somebody shoots a bullet on his face. He'll be dead. So he needs to do something that his suit protects him, like maybe, I don't know, some kind of electromagnetic radiations the suit emits so that nobody is able to hurt him. But of course, Iron Man is dead now. But the point that I am trying to convey here is, you do not go and boil the ocean on day one. You have identified the problem, you have identified the customer, you don't start operating on nano technology based suits on day one. It will take you 10 years to come to nano based suits. Solve for that one small problem, experiment so that you are able to build, measure, and learn while you are building products. Don't become so obsessed with your problem and solution that you want to build a perfect product on day zero. It doesn't work that way. Try to experiment, try to release something fast and early so that you are able to live the life of that product as it evolves. Okay. Don't spend your time and effort and money into building something which you not even sure whether your customers will like. Okay. I'm done with problem number 3. Problem number 4, or learning number 4. A lot of times we build something, we have a problem at hand, we have a solution at hand, and we build something and we do not know how to even measure its success. This is the time when you turn on your mics, and I have a question for you. The question is, and this is a real life problem. The real life problem was, for an airline company, it took a lot of time for the luggage to reach the carousel from the flight. Okay. The problem was found was that staff was not available. Now, the solution was very simple. You need to ensure that the staff is available before the flight arrives. The question to you is, the original problem was that it takes time for luggage to reach the carousel. If that is the problem, what will be your metric to solve it? I will take 2 answers. Anybody willing to speak up?
You can also use chat if you're not, if you don't need to unmute it.
Sorry, Arvind, I didn't get you.
Also, the audience can use the chat if they're not, if they can't unmute themselves right now.
Oh, you can throw a chat. I'm more than happy to read the chats. And I'll wait for 5 seconds because I'm highly time constrained. Okay, I believe I don't have an answer. I will give you the answer. The answer
We have a chat called weight of the luggage, question mark.
Sorry?
We have chats coming in.
So,
Taranam Kataria said weight of the luggage, question mark. And we have, and Akriti has said time for luggage to reach carousel.
Time for the first luggage to reach the carousel. That would be a good one because it takes time for the luggage to reach the carousel.
Yep. Vaibhav has said that reduce time. I think he means overall time.
Okay.
Manoj says bookings for a current flight.
Okay.
Kirti says people working right now. Anik Chatterjee says number of luggage. And Subbu says distance between collection point and flight.
Okay, I'm going to hold you off right here. These are great inputs. See, some of the metrics that you mentioned, right? Number of luggage is not something that the airline can control. On days it can be high, it can be low. Weight of luggage is again something that airline can control. But even if I control the weight, how are you ensuring that the weight arrives at the carousel on time? You are assuming that the problem is that the luggage is heavy. Somebody said the time that it takes for the first bag to arrive. Interestingly, time taken for the first luggage to arrive to the carousel was the exact metric that this organization did. And therefore, you can see in this cartoon what happened. The staff made sure that the first luggage is loaded and then they went for a coffee break. You see, if you do not get your metrics right, your staff can blame you. Your customers, your product managers, your developers, your folks can start building the wrong products. I'll give you you're all from B schools. I'll give you a very classic example. You would have read about the Wells Fargo issue, right? Where Wells Fargo said, I want more accounts from customers. Therefore, what did the Wells Fargo sales team do? They said, oh, you are my customer? Great. You want to open an account with $1 million? Great. I will open 10 accounts with you for $100,000 each. And by virtue of creating 10 accounts, I'm generating whatever, $20 of per month sales. Brilliant. But then when the customers actually started seeing these bills of $20 times 10, why am I paying $200 for one account? And that blew up because that issue happened with several high net worth individuals with Wells Fargo. Eventually, the CEO lost his job. For those who have not read this, please read it. The reason for that entire fiasco was because the metric that Wells Fargo was measuring for the success of the sales team was number of accounts. If number of accounts is a measure, the sales team will go to existing customers and request and plead and gain them to open more accounts even if they don't need. You got the wrong metric, you got the wrong culture, you just build the wrong product and service. Same problem here. A good solution may have been average time to load the luggage, the time that the last luggage arrives, etc., right? So many other answers. But I'm just trying to tell you, be very, very, very conscious that if your metric is measured, is achieved, is your product going to be successful or not? Do you really want that the weight should be contained? If weight is contained, then is your success guaranteed or not? So be very careful with your metrics. It's very important. You will be asked to build telemetry and metrics to measure the success of your product once you've done the problem and the solution and the experimentation, because build, measure, learn has the concept of measure, and measure is nothing but metrics. Okay. So you build what you measure. If you don't measure, you are already lurching in the dark. So make sure that you measure, and when you measure the right thing. I'm already on 4. I have 3 more to go, and I'll make it quick. I talked about customer. I talked about product. I'm moving to team. Your team is very important for you. It is your prerogative to know your team when you are becoming a PM intern. And I'll tell you the reason why. The reason why is you will realize that as a product manager, you are a glue around which a lot of pieces in the organization operate. You are the one who's talking to developers, the UX, the designers, the sales, the marketing, the legal, the leadership. You are the one who's getting all these insights. You are the glue. And guess what? You have no authority. There is nobody reporting to you. Nobody is feeling the pain of, oh, he's my manager, therefore I have to do it. Or she's my manager, therefore I have to do it. No, you do not have authority. If you do not have authority, then how do you go build products? Stakeholder management 101. For those who find it difficult to manage stakeholders, this will be a great training ground for you to understand and leverage your skills to understand how do you get things done by ensuring you do not use authority while you're operating in these situations. So you also should be aware that what your team does, how your team does, and why your team does is very important. Because in a way, just think, whatever you envision is what all these various parties will be working on. You are the visionary. If you have envisioned something, the various parties will do. Imagine you don't envision something which is exciting enough. You may be impacting the career growth of a lot of people, right? So therefore, you being one with your team, operating without authority, not accountability, is very, very critical for your success and the success of your team. Okay? Having done with team, so again, drive your team on purpose and customer obsession rather on authority. I invite all of you to read a book called Drive, okay, which talks about how purpose, autonomy, and mastery are the 3 big pivots for people to feel motivated at work. Those are again something that should be baked in your DNA as to how do you drive your team based on purpose, authority, autonomy, and their own expertise. That is very important, and not authority. Okay. So I am done with 5 learnings, and this I want to talk about you. What makes a great PM? How do you focus on you? I'm going to talk about a small story about myself, and I want all of you to relate to it. This story goes about my growth mindset. What is my mindset as a product manager, which is very important. This story goes back to when I was in 3rd grade. I was in 3rd grade. This is how my English copy looked like. I was in Delhi public school, and we used to have every Monday test. I sat for my Monday test in English, and these are the number of marks I got out of 10. So I practically flunked my English exam. Now, when I flunked my English exam, that was not a problem, but the problem was that I could not have the energy and the power to confront my parents and tell them that I failed, because the conversations we had in our houses, अरे ये तो घर का चिराग है, ये तो आगे जाएगा, he is going to grow the house, etc., etc., and he is the most intelligent, etc. how can I go back to my family and tell that I failed? So what do you do as a very good student? I'll tell you what I did. I went and bought a pilot pen and I made 3.5 ka 8.5 because I told you I was very smart. So problem solved. I went to my parents, said, Bhaiya, 8.5, great. Now parents, mummy, papa, super happy, no problems. Child has done great, 8.5, business as usual, has been doing great. But there is always a but in the story. And the but in the story is I had not calculated that if you check my individual marks, they were 2 plus 1 plus half, which is 3.5, which is definitely not equal to 8.5. And I couldn't give myself marks on that. I didn't have that much brains. That is also not the problem. The bigger problem is if you have an elder sister in the same school who's been taught by the same teacher, then your sister is very critical to open your notebook and check that you have not got all the marks. Right? My sister found it. This was in grade 3. Until grade 10, I was blackmailed like anything. I was told, and this copy I never saw. My sister took it and she said, I will tell it to your parents in case you ever not do things that I asked you to do. So I was blackmailed for 7 years by my sister. And until one day I told, Bhaiya, batana to batao. I don't care. And by that time I was in 10th grade. So you can imagine the predicament. But the important thing here is, why did a guy in 3rd grade have to buy a pilot pen? Why did I have to search for that aspect of, hey, I need to get my act straight and buy a pilot pen to make my 3.5 and 8.5? What was going in my mind is more critical. I could not face failures. For me, failure was not an option. And in product management, no matter what may happen, you will fail. If you haven't failed, it means you didn't think hard enough or you overthought. Both of them are not right. If you are taking 6 months to build a product which is pristine, that is also not right. How do you ship incrementally fast? I just told you, you experiment, you build, measure, learn. You don't take 5 years to envision what a product may be. You just missed your train. From my family background, I was built in a mindset where failure was not acceptable. Therefore, I had severe issues in fitting into this culture of Microsoft where people were saying, "Arey, it's okay to fail." And I was like, "Arey, bhaiya, how should I fail? मैं तो pilot pen ढूंढता हूँ." So that is what I'm trying to tell you. If you fail, it is okay. It means you have done something good. But what is more important is, once you failed, have you reflected? Have you applied your learnings into your next delivery? Are you able to pivot or persevere depending upon what went wrong? Here comes my last learning. Great product managers exhibit growth mindset and are prepared to fail. With this, I'm going to say thanks and I'm going to give the stage back to the IIMA prod team so that Devash can talk about his topic. But before that, I want to give you 2 minutes exact to ask you any questions.
Right. So we wait for a couple of minutes. If you have anything, you can unmute yourself and ask it right now. We have some community questions at the end of the session, but we'll cover some questions right later.
Yeah. But I want to give you 2 minutes explicitly for this. I want to hear something from you guys right now. Very important.
Sandeep, we have a question in the chat by Akriti, and that is, what do we mean by growth mindset?
Akriti, great question. I'll come to that later. I'm looking for a particular question. I'll come to growth mindset in a few minutes. I'll answer that. I'll write your question right here. Growth mindset, so that I don't forget. Any other questions? I'm looking for a particular question. That question has to come by Akriti. Any other questions? Thirty more seconds.
I think you missed one. So.
Who asked that question?
I did.
Sorry, who's this? Can you tell me your name?
Devash, sorry, the other speaker. I just couldn't hold myself, sorry. Some seasoned product management going on there.
So the experience speaks for itself, and you are right, Devash. always question the status quo and stay observant. You, it's so funny that you asked me this. That's so important. And for those who didn't notice, I went from 5 to 7 because I deliberately made 6, and Devar's experience speaks for itself. That you have to question the status quo. Don't just go with the compliance of what your leadership and managers and etc. are saying, and stay observant, because you have no idea. The next biggest idea that can propel you into the realms of the next orbit is sitting there knocking at your door and you have no idea, which happens so often. And you would have heard it that, "Arey yaar, ye Uber wala idea to mere paas bhi tha. Arey yaar, Swiggy idea even I had. Then why didn't you do something about it?" It's very important for us to stay observant when things are happening around us. My talk was not over. My talk is over now. And this is very, very, very important. Okay. With this, I'm going to answer that quick question on growth mindset. Before that, in case you guys we want to learn about product management, we have a cute little cohort on a WhatsApp group where I often give assignments. So I don't know whether my team loves it for that or hates me. But yeah, we do a lot of assignment work on product management. Otherwise, you can follow me in Medium, YouTube, and LinkedIn. To answer your question on growth mindset, Akriti, growth mindset is basically telling you, requesting you in a way, saying that you are a learner. This is a particular aspect in me which went wrong when I joined Microsoft, and I'll tell you what. I was from IIMA Ahmedabad, did great, and we were working in syndicates in IIMA Ahmedabad, working overnights, and then you go to Microsoft, and here is my manager saying, "Arey, don't work late nights. Why are you working late nights? You shouldn't." And I'm like, "Dude, I'm here to prove something, and I will do it. And you don't know. I know better. I will do it." And I was always in that aspect of I know better, therefore I will do. I immediately realized how wrong that mindset is, where you start saying that I know better and I know more than what others do. The mindset of I am a learner and I wish to learn no matter which stage of my career and life is, basically it's that level of cockiness that comes in. It basically kills and thwarts that. At least in Microsoft, day one when I joined in Microsoft, there were posters of growth mindset everywhere, and I was like, "Bhaiya, kya bol rahe ho?" And I didn't understand it for a good 1 year until I was called out saying that you're not exhibiting growth mindset. That is when I read a book by Carol S. Dweck called Mindset. I highly, highly, highly encourage you guys to read that book. Somehow I feel that growth mindset is the scaffolding on which I exist today. Not as a product manager, as a human being, even with my family for that matter. So please read that book on growth mindset by Carol S. Dweck. It's a beautiful read. It'll change your life. And I'm going to keep quiet and give it over to Devarsh. And I have no idea how much I did on time. I just want to make sure that Devarsh has enough time to speak.